Welcome to Austin Stories Malicious Compliance. Today we have some gaslighting and terrible bosses and more. Remember, Austin Stories podcast is available on your favorite podcast host, so check it out over there and listen as well. Let's begin. I should accept request even though there could be legal issues? Got it. Posted by Bell Pepper Glass. I, a 22-year-old male, work as a teacher at my college's application school. We work little hours and we get paid a small amount of money too. It's like an internship. For the past semesters, I've been dealing with a supervisor who we'll call Sheila. She's around a 40-year-old female. Sheila is one of the 4 supervisors at the school. The supervisors usually drop by her class once in a while to check if the students are having their needs met or to solve any issues, like a student wants to retake a class and so on. My issue was that Sheila has a strange interest in me, and for some reason focused way too much on what I did at class to the point of obviously overlooking other teachers. Because Sheila isn't a professor from my department, she only knew about me from colleagues or rumors around college. Such rumors include, I bring whole meals to college instead of eating at the cafeteria like everyone else. What? I was supposed to be in another college. Why? And I'm not actually from the state. Now this one is true. And so on. She confronted me about these rumors in front of colleagues, but I brushed it off, which seemed to annoy her. Sheila then began to try and find out things that I wasn't able to do. She asked me questions about buying a very specific device, like imagine something like a Wi-Fi camera, which I, of course, wasn't able to answer. She giggled and looked smug after that. I, however, managed to answer her other questions, even if they didn't relate to my field, which made her slightly upset. In one of those semesters, an older student that's a lawyer, we'll call Amanda, female around 60, started to request some things from me that I wasn't able to nor had permission to give. Such things include a free, school-approved, good digital dictionary, extremely detailed and personalized exam and exercise corrections, detailing of my methodology, explanations of the goals of every lesson, and audio transcripts of exam materials. Due to Amanda's lawyer occupation, she worded those requests to me in a very formal way. Our school is careful with lawyer students due to some legal issues that happened in the past, something like a student trying to fire a teacher because they got caught cheating. Because I wasn't able to fulfill her request due to lack of permission, and I'm not interested in going to court, I asked her to forward her requests to my superiors. And guess who answered them? Sheila. Sheila didn't even bat an eye to Amanda's request and started forwarding them to me, saying that I should comply. Because Amanda got what she wanted, she began sending more and more requests, to the point that Sheila just told me to accept all forwarded requests and just be fast about it. So I did it. I sent materials, transcripts, and the like, all in the name of the school. Amanda was very happy, and Sheila was loving the extra work that I was doing. She thought she was being smart and had the upper hand. Well, not until Sheila tried to embarrass me in front of my class. She said that despite my excellent work, I'm standoffish, and that's funny. My students tried to correct her statement, but she just ignored them by saying, "Really?" and swiftly left. She tried to pull this again at an online class, and another group of students shut her down again. I emailed her shortly after that, saying that I would prefer her observations about my work to be done in a private setting rather than in front of the whole class. Sheila replied immediately, denying everything and said that I was imagining stuff. She even tried to manipulate me by saying that she was the most vocal supervisor in my favor and was ceaselessly requesting a promotion for me, which I never got. In the end, she assured me that no further comments would be made. That's what I foolishly thought. During a meeting, my boss addressed to all of us a concern from an unnamed supervisor that said us teachers were getting embarrassed by her presence. My boss said that such behavior was unacceptable and they are there to help. At that moment, I saw red. I couldn't believe Sheila had twisted my words and told my boss about the email exchange, portraying me as the bad guy. At one point in the meeting, I asked the other supervisors if we teachers were supposed to do everything I was asked to do for Amanda. They all replied a firm no to, and even gasped when I mentioned transcripts. Basically, our school doesn't have the authority to provide transcripts, and students could legally contest test results if a mistake was present in the transcription. I then requested a meeting with my boss and another supervisor about this. In the meeting, I pointed out that they said that we weren't supposed to be doing those tasks, but I was being ordered to do them anyway. My supervisor quickly opened the email and discovered that Sheila was sniping emails from me and my students and exclusively replied to all of them using her personal phone before others could do or see anything. We also discovered that she was archiving some of the requests so they wouldn't be found easily. I helped them dig everything up, and my boss and the other supervisor said it was inappropriate of the supervisor to do that, and they would talk to her about this. I left the meeting feeling relieved and hoped something would be done. After a few weeks, I saw the supervisor in person, but she just said, "Excuse me," and quickly left to another room. I kid you not. This woman treats me like I am the plague now. She avoids me, doesn't address me directly anymore, and best of all, was apparently assigned to another role that doesn't involve supervision of teachers. Even though she hasn't been greatly punished, I bet she'll think twice before making her comments again. Holy cow, this was like directly targeting OP, gaslighting, and just going the extra mile underneath everyone else, under the table, not allowed to, tell them just to prove everything. Like, this person did some really messed up stuff, and thanks to OP's due diligence and malicious compliance, was able to uncover this whole nasty scheme and expose Sheila for who she truly was. OP, way to go. Have me work throughout the pandemic, promote me, and then don't accommodate my disability? You can pay my short-term disability insurance for that. Posted by Random Cashier 75. Let me do a little backstory first. I started working at Walmart before the COVID-19 pandemic happened as a full-time apparel employee. I happened to have grand mal epilepsy that started in my mid-20s, around 2015. I'm also quite understanding of other people's disabilities and often try to work with them since I can relate to having issues. So for example, I use hand gestures and/or writing for deaf coworkers. This helps with basic communication that most hearing people don't bother with, and it's normally appreciated that I do this. I got to stay in that exact same position throughout 2020 and part of 2021. Naturally, I had to still go to work as an essential employee, deal with the anti-masking idiots, and worry about both of my parents who also work in retail. I managed to get myself promoted to the digital shopping department by transferring stores and pointing out certain key skills that I have that are, well, really useful for retail in 2021. I had politely asked for the minimal requirements for my department manager of 1. Being able to take medication at work, and 2. Not having to bring orders out to cars because I lack what's known as an aura. Basically, summed up here, I can't sense seizures coming. Though I don't have them very often due to medication, a grand mal plus a busy parking lot at work seems like a bad idea. My department manager agreed to this condition as long as I did other work to help out the digital team instead, which was completely reasonable to ask for in my opinion. So as per the request for a lot of the closing shifts that I'd work, I'd take up phone duty, pre-set up the orders to go out, and/or do returns for the department. The issue here was the personal department person. She kept forgetting about my condition repeatedly over the next year. Now, this was despite me bringing in medical notes from my neurologist for my file, pointing this out more than once on why I shouldn't be scheduled solo, and having the department manager talk to her. Now, after over a year, she scheduled me completely solo for a closing, which I noticed and texted my department lead about. I did the official suggestion of hers, despite my thoughts that corporate Walmart was likely even dumber than her on basic disabilities. I only asked for the exact same things that I asked my department manager for, both very, very logical and minimal accommodation requests. As I suspected, Walmart's Sedgwick said, "We can't do this unless you change departments." All departments suggested either wouldn't work due to time and/or location, or they were back at the same level as apparel, which would lower my position and pay. Sedgwick put me on an automatically placed LOA, leave of absence, after a few days without my permission. This was, quote, to allow me to figure out what I should do, end quote, over the next 4 months. I called up and I asked the Walmart Benefit Center about this. As of late 2019, Walmart signed all of their employees up for a free to the employees short-term disability insurance without officially telling them. I filed to get this insurance to pay for my entire LOA, politely explained my situation to a total of 3 people, and was given a short-term disability payments with back pay for exactly when they put me on leave. I'd rather have my paycheck and insurance stick around for a while, despite Walmart and Sedgwick being idiotic. I quit Walmart after having gotten holiday employment with Target for 2 months at that point. Now listen here, you do not mess with people's disabilities in this regard. This is a dangerous thing, putting this person out to work alone by themselves and just basic accommodations, being a kind human being. Is that not enough? So then OP says, I'm not just worried about my job, I'm worried about my safety. So they go take it up to the next level, malicious compliantly, and come back with a huge W win right here for themselves, their disability insurance, their quality of life, and their career. OP, way to go. Don't bother me unless it's an emergency, posted by I Like the Quiet Zeppo. This morning, I got into my car and I realized that I left my headlights on. Thankfully, modern technology meant that it had automatically switched off when the key was removed, but it reminded me of a time where that wasn't so. Many years ago, I was working one of my first jobs in a little cafe, nearing the end of my training period. It was a quiet day, perfect to put the newbie on with only one experienced staff member. The experienced staff member called in sick. Boss had to come in and cover until Sue could come in early. Boss wanted to use the time on site to do paperwork out the back. I'll be in here if you have any questions. I very annoyingly had a lot of questions. How to void an incorrect transaction, where to find more special paper for the credit card machine, what to do when the coffee grinder stopped working, and so on. Finally, boss said, I'm busy. Don't bother me unless it's an emergency. Let me know when Sue is here. Shyly, I replied, that's just what I came to tell you. Sue just arrived. Great. Any more questions? Just ask her. Sue took over the coffee area and got me on restocking, clearing tables, and emptying the bins and other necessary grunt work. I went out to the outside bins through the little staff parking area and saw my boss's old car there with the headlights still on. I went back to my boss's office. Boss, is it an emergency? Boss snapped. Not to me, I replied. Then go away. I left quickly. I went to tell Sue instead. Sue, and then I changed my mind. Boss doesn't want to be disturbed unless it's an emergency, so I'm supposed to ask you if I have more questions. Sue and I worked pleasantly until the end of my shift a few hours later. As I gathered my things to leave, Boss ran by me, knocking into me a bit. Without turning around to see if I was okay, Boss said, "Sorry, I'm in a rush." I slowed down to see what happened next, getting out my brick of a phone to text my mother that I was on my way home. I could hear my boss swearing. OP! Oh no. Boss realized that what I was going to tell them earlier, and I was in trouble. Can you bring your car in and give me a jump start? My battery is flat. Now only a few cars could fit, so only senior staff and management could park there. I walked here. I live 10 minutes of a walk up the hill. I raced off before Boss could blame me. The next time I was on shift with Sue, I asked what happened to Boss. Well, headlights got left on. He got a flat battery. Boss tried to jump start it with my car, but it didn't work. Had to call a taxi. Funny that neither of us noticed the lights were on when we walked by it. And I realized, of course, she had to have seen it when she walked in. I can only imagine why she didn't say anything either. You know, it's just hilarious because the boss said, don't bother me if it's an emergency only. And OP tried to say, hey dude, look, you got a problem here. And boss is like, whatever, it doesn't matter. What I'm doing is always more important than what my worker that I'm trying to train that is brand new may need to ask me. Like, in what universe does someone say this? Well, obviously this one, because this really happens and this is the world that we live in, of course, with Karens and bad bosses. But way to go, OP, for standing your ground and bringing out the OPMC, Malicious Compliance. Dead Bird, posted by The Last Man Bear. So before I start the story, I need to give some background on my current job and my terrible boss. I work at an answering service. It's a company that handles the phones for several companies like plumbing companies, construction companies, and a few others. We handle the phones and take messages for them and page or text them out to the people working. On to my terrible boss. She is absolutely a greedy, horrible person and has no shame about it. She owns the answering service and also owns 5 other houses, one of which she rents out to someone. The office for the company is in shambles. The carpet was ruined from years of being walked on with no upkeep. The walls have holes in them, and the computers and equipment are incredibly old. I'm talking that some of the phones are still using 2000 old. She only has barely enough computers working for the employees to work on. There's maybe 10 or 12 old computers stocked up in the corner that don't work anymore. And she also treats the employees terribly. We'll have like 10 or 15 calls coming in at a busy time with one employee working, and she won't lift a finger to help. She'll just tell the employee to hurry up and yell at them when they can't handle the workload. Earlier this week, the computer at my station stopped working. Now I'm pretty sure it can be fixed, but my boss doesn't want to get it fixed. So instead of getting the computer fixed, she told me to go work out of one of her houses with a computer that has the necessary programs and equipment. The house she wanted me to go to is actually about 10 minutes closer to where I live compared to where the office is. So, yeah, whatever, I didn't make a big deal about it. She had me sign a non-disclosure form to not tell anyone about her house and included that I was not allowed to touch anything in the house. I was only allowed to touch the equipment that involved work. Again, I just thought, whatever, and she just signed it. So, into my story. I'm sitting at the desk earlier this week, and it was super slow, so I was reading a book. Then I notice her cat coming in from the doggy door with a dead bird in her mouth. So I call my boss, and the call goes like this. Hey, so your cat just walked in, and it had, "Don't you freaking dare touch my cat." But the cat, "If you touch my cat, I will fire you. You hear me?" Yeah, all right. And then I hung up. I did absolutely jack crap about it. On my way out, I glanced down the hallway and saw a pile of feathers and bird parts all over her bed, which I laughed so hard at. I'm finishing up school in the next couple of months, so I'm biting the bullet and finishing off before I quit, since I don't want to find a part-time job for a month. But when I quit, you bet I'm going to tell someone about the work violations. The great part about this MC is that the boss trusted the employee to go to the house. The employee was doing their due diligence and kindness, helping the boss with the cat situation. Even through all of that trust, boss still says, nope, you need to stop and just do what I told you to, no matter what emergency might be popping itself up, which just completely took OP over the limit, straw that broke the camels, or cats, or birds, technically in this story, back. And then all the work violations are now going to get exposed. So this malicious compliance turns into a pro or even a nuclear revenge, depending on your definition of the word. OP, you nailed it. Try not to get fired? Okay, watch this. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss this awesome story, and I'll see you there.